It's unbelievable, but colonies still exist on our planet today. For 170 years, the islands of New Caledonia have been under French protection. Do the local people dream of independence? Is independence even possible for them in principle? How do the Kanak people live now? What's their life like?
When we ask for our independence back, it's primarily to reclaim our identity.
Is there a special word for New Caledonia in your language?
Kanaki, voilà. C'est la Kanaki. Nous, on reste ici à Kanaki.
Kanaki. That's why we talk a lot about independence. It's like this. We can gain independence, but first we need a lot of discussion, debate and voting.
D'abord parler, on discute, voter, tout. Voilà.
The clans had a balanced way of life that developed over centuries. There was a kind of family network that shaped society. Clan members exchanged goods, material possessions, and natural products. Yams were especially valuable. They were considered the main wealth. This vegetable is still a staple in the Kanak diet.
Yams from the town of Kune.
It's local produce. Yes, it's local. What's that? It's vegetables.
Yes, it's a starchy vegetable.
Alors, les yams, on a 150.
It's a yam. There are between 50 and 160 varieties. There are white yams. Its skin is white, but the flesh is purple. There are yams that are red on the outside but white on the inside. There are white yams with little purple spots. And there's a difference in flavor. Do you want to know more or not?
I just want to understand how it's eaten.
What?
Actually, it's like a potato. You peel it, cut it into small pieces, and boil it in water.
Kanak society is close to outside influences. Traditions and recipes here are strictly protected and carefully passed down to the new generation. That's why the traditional Kanak dish, bogne, has survived to this day. People still love it and know how to prepare it.
Ben voilà, les vieux, ils sont là devant.
Here we are at Grandma and Grandpa's house. You can see the entrance in front of you. And it's paved with seashells. These are seashells, as the sea is nearby. Now we'll enter with a respectful bow as a greeting.
On va rentrer dans la case. On va baisser la tête pour le salut. Hey!
The Kanak have maintained the tradition of living in traditional cases, huts made of dry plants built directly on the ground. Narcis has been building houses for 40 years, just as his ancestors taught him. At first he refused to talk to us, but when he learned that the director had traveled across the world to make a film about Kanak life, he opened up. He told us how he created his case, depicting in the center the story of the beginning of colonization, when white people first arrived on the island and began to act as if the local people had never existed here.
En réalité, c'est pour dire qu'il n'y a rien de nouveau ici.
The idea is to show that there's nothing new here. When they arrived here by sea, everything was already here. That's the point of this story. One day people came here, and they arrived by sea in ships like this one.
Ils sont arrivés par la mer avec un bateau.
And when they came by sea to this place, they looked around and said, "Oh, there's a boat nearby too, but it's not the same as ours. It was a canoe." They were at sea when the people set foot on land, and they said, "Oh, there's a fishing net here, like the one we use for catching fish, but not exactly the same."
C'est un filet comme nous quand on attrape les poissons, mais c'est pas pareil.
The French state built cities, created special apartments and residential areas. Kanak people moved to big cities in search of work, but every Kanak has an ancestral home, a place of power, to which they return whenever possible. And French colonization couldn't destroy this connection.
Ça, c'est... Alors nous, on est venus parce que...
Yes, this structure is native to the island. Those who built it have long since left. We were invited to do the renovation work. That's what I'm doing now. Part of the material had rotted, so I replaced it.
Qui était pourri, donc je l'ai changé.
Oh, I see. That means repairs.
That's right.
Les méthodes, you use traditional methods building homes according to custom.
Oui, c'est ça. Ben,
Yes, that's right. That's why I'm explaining, because some people think you can order building materials from some company, but we're talking about natural materials here. Straw is everywhere. We also take into account the influence of the moon.
c'est important.
How did it affect things?
En quel sens c'est important?
Bon alors, mais vous connaissez, je vous apprends rien.
When the moon rises, the sap in plants rises, and when the moon sets, the sap also descends. It's at this moment, when the sap is descending, that we cut the grass.
Parce que les bêtes, ils peuvent pas venir.
This way small animals don't get in the way either.
La paille que vous voyez là, cette couleur-là, elle est mûre.
So we schedule our work according to the moon. This is the straw you see here. See, that's the color of mature straw. It has already flowered. It's a bit dry, while fresh straw is green in color. We don't cut that kind. All these details and peculiarities you need to know. It's part of the profession. It's very important to consider everything to build a good, durable house, otherwise it will just rot very quickly and that's it.
C'est important d'utiliser
This is your ancestor's house.
ancestre.
Voilà, c'est ça.
That's right.
Your father's house.
Les papas, les grands-pères...
Yes, fathers, grandfathers, ancestors in a word. The houses were already here when you arrived, just like the canoes. Nothing is new in this world. What you see here is called a muaka in the local language, and over there is another muaka shaped like this. And the muaku is like this.
En langage d'ici, tout bien. Ce que vous voyez là-bas, c'est un muaka.
In this kind of muaku, you can do many things, cook food and so on. And people go to the muaka to hold council, socialize, discuss important issues, arrange clan meetings, make important decisions. But today all of that is no longer taken into account. People just see a house and that's it. But for us, all of this has deep meaning and significance. We still speak in Fe, that's in Polynesian, and muaka, that's in the Kanak language.
On dit toujours faré. Faré, c'est polynésien. Muaka, c'est kanak.
The drink is cold. It's made from the powdered, dried root of a tree with the same name, hava. This drink has such relaxing properties that it's banned in France, apparently due to competition with wine. Here in New Caledonia, even though it's French territory, they're allowed to drink kava. There's a whole culture around this drink. It's considered a beverage of peace and tranquility. People make new acquaintances, chat, and spend time in these cafes.
Eh ben, on a vu un changement. Le cava, c'est pas comme l'alcool.
When Kava arrived, we immediately felt the difference. Kava is different from alcohol. Many people have managed to quit alcohol because of it. After drinking alcohol, they seem to go mad and become someone else. When you drink kava, it doesn't matter how much. Then you go home and everything's fine. You don't need to bother your family. Thanks to kava, things have gotten much better. Kava is better for your health. Alcohol, on the other hand, kills and destroys.
C'est pas un bon exemple.
Christian missionaries forbade drinking kava. People continued to consume this drink secretly in underground bars and cafes. Gradually, kava became a symbol of Pacific identity itself. Moreover, a cup of this herbal drink is 10 times cheaper than a pint of beer or a glass of wine. When Europeans came to the islands of New Caledonia, besides viruses and diseases, they brought alcoholism. It became a serious problem for the Kanaks, who had never encountered the use of alcohol before. The locals were devastated and dying. Is this your favorite place?
You could say that, I suppose. I come here almost every evening.
Presque tous les soirs. Ouais, tous les soirs.
What about you?
Après, je fais des...
Actually, I'm a general laborer working unofficially. I work as a mechanic with machinery, do painting jobs. Wherever they call me, wherever they pay, I go. I don't turn down work. I have a son and a girlfriend too. We are a small family. That's life. I work as a mechanic, painter, mason. I do a bit of everything. I'm also a fisherman.
Pinchers, lake, lands, and champs.
During colonization, the Kanaks were kept on designated reservations. These reservations were imposed by the authorities and called tribes, the very same clans that were in the territory before the colonizers. The word tribe was introduced by European colonizers. This term doesn't quite fit the social structure of Kanak society.
The traditional social structure of Kanak life has become an attraction for tourists in New Caledonia. Kanak woman Elisa Mindiara turned it into a family business, making sure to observe all ancestral traditions and asked permission from the tribal chief.
Oui, avant de faire le site,
Yes, before I started this business, we spoke with the tribal council and asked for the opinion of all community members. Whether everyone agreed for me to open a hotel here in New Puani. There's a tribal chief, but important decisions are made by the council chairman and the council of elders. This includes the clan leader and so on.
Le chef de tribu, lui, c'est le chef de l'administration. Mais il y a le président du conseil, c'est lui qui achète le droit coutumier. C'est lui.
And for important matters, you need to consult them. They decide on all issues, even matters of marriage. It's also a matter of customary law and traditions. You need to seek their approval.
Le clan, voilà, c'est eux là que quand tu veux quelque chose, mais c'est eux qui décident, c'est eux qu'on demande la permission à eux pour faire tout ça. Un mariage, tout ça, c'est un mariage coutumier.
Thanks to their rich culture and loyalty to traditional ways, the Kanaks were able to withstand the empire's most serious blow, the blow to self-determination. In 170 years, the locals haven't forgotten who they are. Every island resident identifies as Kanak, and they call New Caledonia Kanakia in their own way.
C'est une très bonne question. Alors, je me suis posé...
That's a very good question. I've wondered about that myself. I feel like a Caledonian. This is my country, isn't it? I live here. I feel Caledonian, but I'm also proud to be French.
Normal, mais toujours fière d'être française.
C'est sur le passeport ou sur la carte d'identité.
Actually, it's only on paper, in my passport or ID card, that it says I'm French. Physically, culturally, politically, economically, and most importantly socially, I'm completely Kanak.
Je dirais plutôt Kanak. Parce que la nation...
I'd say I feel more Kanak. Because French nationality is fine, but I feel like it somehow deprives me of my Melanesian roots. and I cherish them very much and strive to preserve them. Perhaps later I'll be able to reclaim them. I see us losing our culture. Yes, I consider myself more Kanak than French.
Oui, je me sens beaucoup plus kanak que française.
Question difficile.
It's not easy. No, the question itself isn't difficult. My identity is more connected to the Kanaks, of course. My father is Kanak, and I grew up in Kanak culture.
J'ai un père qui est kanak, donc j'ai grandi aussi dans la culture kanak.
The first Kanak rebellion occurred as early as 1854, just a year after the establishment of the French colony. Of course, the rebellion was brutally suppressed. The instigators were imprisoned, and other participants were exiled to neighboring islands. France has continued this policy of mixing immigrant and indigenous populations for the last 150 years, and they've generally achieved their goal. The indigenous population here is now about 40%. So when the independence referendums finally took place in Kanak, New Caledonia, it was quite recently, in 2018, 2020, and 2021. The majority voted to stay with France. That's not surprising because native Kanaks are only 40% of the population. And the Kanaks boycotted the elections, knowing they wouldn't win, even though it's their land.
Emmanuel Macron is trying to change the voting system so that as many foreigners as possible can vote. We call this a continuation of French colonialism because there's a geopolitical strategy, France's Indo-Pacific alliance. France is now rapidly losing ground. We see what's happening in Africa, for example. The Pacific is the last refuge for France. And we don't want our land to serve as a military base or airfield for French planes.
Let me, Frank.
My wife isn't eligible to vote in the referendum. She can't vote for or against, and I do as she does. I gave myself the right not to go to the polls.
De ne pas servir.
Air Sable Sodu. Do you think the Kanaks can survive without France?
C'est à cause du nickel ou peut-être...
Maybe it's because of nickel, I don't know. The territory was colonized. It still felt that way, but they will gain freedoms.
On est toujours colonisé. Je ne suis pas contre. Il va nous donner la liberté.
Jean-Marie Tjibaou, a prominent political figure, a Kanak, son of a tribal chief, and also a Sorbonne graduate, thanks to whom the indigenous people of New Caledonia gained the right to vote. He led the most influential, even to this day, separatist party, the Kanak Socialist National Liberation Front.
Place des Cocotiers, P Square. A monument was erected here a few years ago as a symbol of the Matignon Accords. These agreements were signed between the first, most prominent, known Kanak politician, Jean-Marie Tjibaou, and the French government. According to these agreements, a referendum on independence was proclaimed for New Caledonia. The plan was that after some time the country would gain independence from France. But unfortunately, Kanak nationalists saw this agreement as a betrayal of the Kanak people. And it was tragic.
Dans le sens où je pense que...
In the sense of reclaiming what they lost. Roughly speaking, to get back what the white people took from us, something like that. But you know, these are just my personal thoughts and feelings. For me, it's like this. I would like our children to study, to become doctors, lawyers, to start their own businesses, to be independent, to work for themselves and contribute to the development of our country. Because we need it. And then later, we won't need to send our children abroad to study and return home. Many go to study and stay there. Not many young people are eager to return and work for the development of our homeland. I think it's very important.
How do you see your future?
Do you dream of living here?
Je me vois bien voyager, oui.
Of course, I would like to travel, see the world, but I hope to end my life here. This is where I was born, this is my home and my culture. It is rich and strong in traditions. I am very attached to my country, my community and my tribe.
Mon pays, ma commune, ma tribu.
And served Black Neduli to go to the continent, to the metropolis.
Metropolis? With what's going on there right now, I don't really feel like it.
Really?
I've heard there's more destruction there than here.
That's right.
Is that so?
It's very peaceful and very safe here.
Yes, and protests aren't very common here.
A plane from Noumea to Paris costs 2,000 euros. Maybe girls just don't have that kind of money to move to the metropolis.
Avant, je faisais de la coiffure et au final, je suis revenu.
I was a hairdresser, and then I decided to return to help my grandmother because there was no one else, and she had no one to pass on the business she created with her own hands. So here I am again at home. As for the future, in the Pacific region, there are many countries that have gained independence and are living well.
Those who don't have significant natural resources sometimes need funding, but they are helped by the UN and other countries support them.
Les accords qu'ils ont avec ces pays-là. Mais non, après, c'est...
On demand dependence, did you vote in the referendum?
On peut, hein? On peut vivre.
Yes, I believe we can. We can live independently. Look at Vanuatu. How many years have passed and they're living just fine? And we can do it too. Why not? They import some products. But they're living. I was in Vanuatu myself last year, and I must say that life there, at least the local products, are much cheaper than here.
Ouais, peut-être, ouais. Parce qu'on a déjà tout ce qu'il faut, on a de la terre.
We basically have everything we need. We have land. We have people who produce and prepare products themselves for sale. Yes, I think we can be quite independent.
Je sais pas, Macron il a dit que la colonisation est un crime contre l'humanité. Après, c'est l'histoire.
I think it has now become an established fact that colonialism is a crime against humanity. But it's part of history, and it can't be rewritten or remade. We have no power over time, over the discoveries that great navigators made in their time. All these Europeans who set out to conquer the world and so on. It's history. But today, many are demanding historical justice, like us, Guinea or Polynesia. Colonization should remain in the past.
According to the UN classification, New Caledonia continues to be a dependent territory. And the decolonization process here is still not finished.